Hi and welcome. This week I'm trying to track down an electrical issue with my wife's 750 Breva. On the ride home last night, she found that the bike was cutting out and losing all power when she went round left-hand corners. And by losing all power, I mean that the instruments went dead, the headlight went dead, and the engine went dead. And when you turned the bars back to the centre, it came back to life. So obviously there's an issue with the wiring somewhere around the steering head, whether it's a connector in the shell, under the instruments, or under the tank, or most likely it's where that cable has been flexed constantly in the loom. When you've been turning left and right on the motorcycle for over 10 years, it's probably broken a wire in there. But I'm hoping that it'll be something a little simpler. Okay, the first thing I need to do is take off the seat, tank, and the little fairing. Now the seat's pretty easy to take off. There's just a key on the left-hand side here, and you just open that and lift it up. Now removing the tank is quite straightforward, but first we need to remove this piece of plastic cosmetic trim on the front here. It goes sort of underneath here and is bolted onto both sides of the tank with a number of screws. So I'll do that first. So next we remove the tank bolt at the rear. And now disconnect the wiring to the fuel pump, which is located inside the tank. So we'd undo this connector. Okay, now that we've disconnected the fuel pump, we can relieve the pressure in the fuel line, which will make disconnecting the fuel hose a lot easier. So we'll just turn on the ignition, attempt to, and that's it. There should now be no pressure in that fuel line. So now we need to just lift the rear of the tank. Just be careful of the wiring and also the hose, which is probably sitting underneath this cross piece here. So you just very delicately fold that up, and we can wiggle it out of the grommets a bit and put a piece of wood in under here so we can disconnect the fitting with ease. And then we just need to rotate this fitting up so that it's 90 degrees to the tank and pull the grey collar towards you, so in this direction, and it should just come off easily, and there we have it. That's the fitting off. It's actually quite easy to do. Now you will get a little bit of spilt petrol, so you'll need to wipe that up first, but you should be able to just lift the tank off now. Just take care when lifting the tank that you make sure that the wiring harness to the tank fuel pump is free, and then you'll just be able to lift it off. Okay, now we can investigate the electrical problem. I'll just turn the ignition on, and you'll notice as I turn the steering head left and right, the power comes and goes on the dash there, and the headlight goes on and off. So I really need to investigate this wiring that's on this side here. There's obviously something happening in there. Okay, I've taken the small screen and headlight off. They're just held on by 2 bolts on either side. And we've got the ignition switch here, and you can just see there's an orange wire there that's free. So it's actually come unsoldered from inside the ignition switch. Now there's a couple of screws that hold that on, so I'll need to pull that off and resolder it, and then I can reassemble. Easier fix than I thought. And that's it, job done. I've resoldered that wire and reinstalled the ignition switch on the back of the key lock. And all that remains to be done is to refit the headlight, screen, tank and seat, and the bike will be ready to ride again. The fault is now gone, so if we turn on the ignition and turn the bars left and right, the electrics don't cut out, so we should be fine from here on. Now this bike has done a lot of kilometres. It's done over 100,000 kilometres. I'm not quite sure how far over, because when it got to 9999, the odometer stopped working. Obviously the factory didn't expect it to last any further than that. But from past experience, I think it's probably done around 115,000 kilometres now, and it's still going strong. Nothing major has actually gone wrong with this bike. It's just kept going, and it's fulfilled its role as a fantastic commuter. And for that role, it really is a good motorcycle, and I'd certainly would have recommended one of these to anyone for that role. I mean, the fifth gear is noisy, but it's not too noisy, that's not livable with. But that is a common problem with the gearboxes in these bikes, is that the fifth gear does become a bit noisy. Anyway, that's it for this little problem-solving exercise, and I'll see you next time.